Hi, I'm Taylor Kuehl, and this is the Fans View podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View podcast. Today's guest is someone who represents the true grind of grassroots racing, the kind of racer who loads up, works on her own car, and then races across multiple states all over the country. She started racing at 5 years old. She chased Team USA dreams in karting, and then she moved herself to the Midwest to race with a little more than determination in a toolbox. She's an IMCA Lady Eagle Champion with feature wins all across the country. I could go on forever, but we're just going to introduce her to you guys, Miss Taylor Kuehl. My favorite last name I have interviewed yet. I just want you to know that. How are
Thank
you doing
you.
tonight, Taylor?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I had to cut your intro short. You have done so much in what feels like so little time. I mean, good Lord, girl, how do you have so much time for it?
I feel like it's run out so quickly. Like they say time runs out and there's not enough time in the day, and that's totally true. I feel like we never really stop going. So I've been very fortunate to have all the time and the space and the tools to do everything I've done.
For sure, for sure. What I want to jump into first and foremost is I know you've been on a couple week long excursion here the past couple days, past couple weeks. What have you been up to?
I was in Arizona the past 2 weeks racing the Wild West Shootout. That was a 6 race series, and it was actually in my home state. So it was nice to be home for a little while. I spent the holidays there, and then we put the cars together and got racing for 6 nights. And it took us just over 3 days to get back to North Carolina from there.
God bless you guys. I couldn't do it.
Thank you.
Let's start at the beginning because your story is so interesting. I think like a lot of racers, you got started very early, but you also had a lot of success. You started racing at just 5 years old. Do you remember what hooked you right away, or at that stage, at that age, is it just pure chaos and fun at that point?
Yeah, honestly, I think it was just like a sport for me. I played a couple other sports throughout my life, and when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, and my parents just told me, they said, you need to pick one. We can't do all this. We don't have enough time to do all this. So I chose racing. That was my favorite thing to do, and it still is to this day.
I love it. Karting is such a brutal learning environment. What did those early years teach you that still shows up in your driving today?
Like you said, it's very brutal. You have to be very tenacious. There really is no giving up. If you do, then you're done. It's the same thing today. I feel like we just have to keep kicking through the trials and tribulations, and that's what we do no matter how painful it is.
Well, one thing that you did do that was maybe not so painful is you qualified for Team USA at the World Finals. That's something a lot of racers will never have the opportunity to experience. When you look back at that moment, did it feel like is this real moment, or were you just a kid, just chasing the next race?
Yeah, it was a really big moment for me. I was 12 at the time, and I had by then learned how to work on my go-kart. I was kind of getting into the setup stuff, and of course I had to clean it after every race. I already had the dedication part into it. I knew what it took to get there. With the help of my parents and my brother, we raced for a whole season to get a ticket to the World Finals, and it was actually a very trying season, and it came down to the very last race for the ticket, so it definitely paid off.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably do, an entire podcast just talking about that run. The
Yes.
more I dug into the research, I was like, man, this girl's a badass.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, mechanical failure ended that run, in the end. Was that your first real experience with just absolute heartbreak in racing?
No, I think it came a couple seasons before that when we were racing for championships at our local racetrack, and when we got a second or third place after racing all season to get the top spot, obviously. So that was heartbreaking, especially at that level of competition. But I guess it's the cards we were dealt, and we had to deal with it.
Hey, I love the attitude. I mean, you're a racer through and through. You know, you made that jump not too long after from asphalt karting to dirt, which is, to say a huge change, I think would be maybe the understatement of the century. What was
Yes.
the hardest adjustment, early on?
I was so used to steering into the corner, driving it in straight and not turning on the brake. And so just I think the biggest adjustment for me that was the hardest was just the driving style itself, being on such a different surface and then
Right.
having to whip the car in there.
You it worked out well. It seems like you won Arizona Rookie of the Year that year. Did that validation kind of hit different after switching disciplines, or was that just another notch on your belt and let's keep pushing forward?
Yeah, it was special to me for sure because I was in a world that wasn't mine, it felt like that first year. And or although it was a special accomplishment, I feel like it was kind of just another thing. I was so used to winning and running up in the front in the go-karts, and then
Right.
I went into the mod light dirt racing, which was really different, and it was tough to even run in the top 3.
Yeah, humbling for sure. And that kind of brings me to my question. Racing careers aren't always linear. It's not like, A to B gets you to C and it's just boom, boom, boom. What almost made you walk away from racing and what ultimately brought you back in?
I'm sure I can't even count how many times I was like, gosh, I can't do this anymore because of how hard it's gotten at times. I can't pinpoint a specific thing because there were so many times, but I think just when you have such a positive attitude all the time and things keep breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down, and things don't really go your way, it starts to reverse your attitude whether you want to or not. And when I was racing with my dad and brother, I know it happened several times where there's 3 of us and we're all working toward the same thing. We all work differently, and when we don't accomplish what we want, it's really tough.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of piggybacking off of that, you took the next step, you moved to Iowa, you moved to the Midwest. That's a wild move. Basically to the heart of dirt racing though. And again, that's bold. What kind of went into that decision to leave home, and head for the, I guess, the fields of Iowa? That's about all they got going on over there, I do believe.
Yes.
What kind of went into that?
So I in 2020, I got away from home. I was living with my parents still. I was 19, and I wanted to go out on my own and race on my own, live on my own, be independent woman. I went and worked on a farm and I bought and paid for my first race car that I owned. So that was really cool. And the next year I was like, well, if I'm doing this, then I need to set bigger goals. So I went back home that winter and I planned on going to Iowa the next summer and staying there. So that's what I did.
That is awesome. And you've raced many nights with little to no crew help, and to kind of build on that blue collar, like, I'll get my hands dirty and do it myself type attitude. What's something that fans don't realize about racing solo that completely changes how you approach a night?
Yeah, I think like every team, every person, they each have their own system of doing things. And of course, like a race director, they set up the night how the races are going to go, heat races, B mains, and features, and what time everything starts. So I think just being alone, the hardest thing was the timing of it all because you get there and your car's ready for hot laps. You go out for hot laps, you come in, and you have to do these 5 things before the heat race. If the heat race doesn't go well, instead of doing the 5 things for the B main, now you have 10 things. And when you're a one-man band, it's really hard to rally up and get that done. And sometimes it's a scramble, and I somehow made it work most of the time, I think.
It seems to have worked out pretty well for you for the most part. How much of that success do you credit to understanding that car? Because, like you said, it's you. You're the one man band. You're the only show in town. How much do you credit to understanding the car versus, just that raw driving ability? You know what I mean? What do you think that has to do with it?
I think it's probably the biggest part of racing. When I started driving for Matt Crafton last year, he always, or in 2024, he always told me, you're only as good as the car. And I was kind of like, okay, yeah, if your setup isn't right, then you're going to miss that night. And you have a lesser chance of winning, obviously. And I didn't really see that come into effect until last year when we bought a race car and it wasn't built fundamentally right. Things just weren't right on it, and the way that things travel, you can put different shocks on or springs and that doesn't matter. So I really struggled with that and that got me down last year, and I was like, you know what? You are only as good as the car, because if you don't have the setup right and if your car isn't built right, then you're not going to win. And we saw that last year, but I've done a lot of learning since moving to Iowa a couple years ago, and
Right.
setup is definitely like the biggest thing to that contributes to your success.
It's funny. It's like that Crafton fella might know a thing or two about racing. He might have a race or two under his belt.
Yes, yeah, he's taught me a lot.
And I want to go back to racing for Matt at the end here, but while we're still talking about your dirt track stuff, you had a hell of a run there for a couple years. Not that you're not still on a run, but you were the IMCA Lady Eagles champion. That season was massive. Multiple wins, multiple states. What finally clicked during that season?
I would say just having the car right. And
Mhm.
then the experience that I got to go to different places and diversify my driving ability on different surfaces, different track lengths and all that. So I did a lot of learning the couple years before that, and I think it finally added up.
I love that. Speaking of learning and learning
Hey, you.
experience,
Yeah, watching this right now. I see you. If you're enjoying what you're watching, I've got one quick favor to ask, and it only takes a second, costs you nothing, and makes a huge difference. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, maybe drop a comment. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't seem like much, but for small creators, it's everything. So let's help more people find this channel and keep the content coming. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the podcast will be really grateful. So if you're having fun, you like what you see, make it official, click those buttons, and the Fans View podcast, we'll see you next time.
and learning experiences. You've also run in the Chili Bowl, which by all, every report is just absolute pandemonium and chaos from the word go all that week. What was the difference between that environment and your regular dirt program?
It definitely was go, go, go. I feel like a lot of big events are kind of like go, 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 and then you wait for a while until your race comes up. But once it comes race time, like you don't ever stop, and there's always teams funneling through the aisles, and it is really crazy. Driving those cars was definitely different, and that was my biggest challenge. So I was kind of focused on that all week amongst all the other chaos going on.
When I was digging into the research and I was checking stuff out about you, I saw that you were actually there supporting the Team Jack Foundation. How important is it for you to race for something bigger than results?
Honestly, that was the first time that I had ever had a foundation on my car and that I had ever raced for a greater cause. So it was very, very special to me. I think if we were able to make even a small impact, then every little thing helps.
I love that. And now I definitely want to go back because we are not just going to breeze over it. You've got a heck of an opportunity now. You've had the opportunity to race for Matt Crafton, who is a multi-time NASCAR Truck Series winner, champion. How did that opportunity come together?
So it's actually funny. We were both racing at the same racetrack in Arizona, and he was pitted across from me, him and his daughter and his son. And his daughter was racing at the time, and he was like, "Hey, there's this girl that I want you to watch. She does really good, and she works on her own race car," in hopes that maybe she would be more into it and to change her mentality that women can't win in race cars. So he he really pushed her toward me to lean on in racing, and long story short, he started helping me on my dirt program, and in turn I helped Elodie, his daughter, with her dirt racing. and he gave me some really, really cool opportunities and was teaching me along the way.
I love that. Does racing for someone like Matt with such a knowledge of motorsports, is that something that gives you more confidence now when you get in that seat and behind the wheel?
Yeah, definitely. There was a couple times when he first started helping me. I didn't know him very well, so he would be like, "Hey, let's make these three changes. I know they're gonna work. It'll be perfect." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that in the past." And he's like, "We're gonna do it. And if it does not work out, you can go on without that trust and we'll go about it a different way." And it worked that night, and so ever since I've trusted him. I'm like, "Okay, I
Yeah,
think you know what you're doing."
like you said, he might have a race or two under his
Yeah.
belt.
Yep.
That makes sense. Racing is obviously it's very physical. In the dirt world, it's even more so. But just as much physically brutal is mentally just next level. How do you reset after a bad night or a mechanical failure or just things aren't going your way?
I think it just takes to sleep on something. We had a couple rough nights last week, and it's easy to hang our head after a heat race or whatever, and then that kind of continues on in your mentality, whether you realize it or not. Your mentality is a little bit off and your attitude's a little bit off. Your confidence is a little bit off. So that's easy to carry into the feature that night and be a little bit off from then. But once you go to sleep and wake up the next morning, it's a whole new ball game. You get to reset and you get to start your night over and do different things with the car. So usually if we have a bad night, just sleep it off.
I love it. Spoken like a true racer. I love that. Would you say that you race to prove people wrong, or do you race to prove something to yourself?
I definitely race to prove something to myself. There's a lot of naysayers and there are a lot of amazing people who support me and other drivers alike. And the times that I have given up, like we've talked about, or that I've
Hmm.
wanted to give up, I feel like we've gotten so far from those points and I have to continue to try everything I can to keep racing and keep finding success.
I love it. One thing I love to ask when I have a female driver on, because I think it's very important to try to, get rid of this line of distinction. How do you separate the noise of the female driver narratives from just being a driver and wanting to win races? Is that important to you to just be known as a driver as opposed to a female driver?
Yeah, I've gotten recognition like the Lady Eagle Award, and I've gotten recognition at certain races and stuff for being the only female to make a race or being the only female to start front row of this giant race or whatever. And I'm kind of like, okay, I'm another driver, so there's 33 drivers that get to make the feature at the IMCA Super Nationals, and I just hope to be one of them, whether I'm a male or female. And they've pointed that out before, and I'm like, you know what? It's really cool to be here, and I think being one of the 33 is such a blessing. So I think it's just like another thing. I'm just another person.
I like that. What does success look like for Taylor 5 years from now? Is it a division you want to reach? Is it a level you want to be at? Or is it just simply sustainability and still racing?
Kind of sustainability and finding success in certain series. I think that being in a late model would be really cool. I've always explored that opportunity and I've always kept my options open for that. Obviously, coming from like IMCA modifieds where you're running a crate motor that puts out 420 horsepower, I look forward to racing the UMP modifieds, which are a little bit more advanced, like in their suspension, and you can run anywhere from 800 to 900 horsepower. So I think it would be really cool to get more opportunities in the UMP modified and in a dirt late model. And one of my favorite things to race is anything on asphalt too, honestly. I like that more than dirt. So if I can get opportunities to do that, that would be awesome.
I love it. I love it. Well, I cannot let you out of here without asking you the two trademark fans view questions because obviously I'm just a race fan like the rest of these guys out here that are watching. And one thing that I love to do is kind of to get to know the person behind inside the helmet, behind the wheel. And no two questions encapsulate that better. The first of which being outside of the motorsports bubble. And I know obviously you're in the motorsports bubble 99.9% of the time, but outside of racing, what are you a fan of?
Gosh, that's hard. I think it would be traveling, but I think
Okay.
we mostly do that racing. I think we're on the road a lot. So maybe football. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so don't hold it
Okay.
against me if you're not, but yeah, I like watching Packers games.
Hey, listen, I'm a Jaguars/Jets fan, so I'm not throwing any shade over here. Who am I
Yeah.
to judge? Last but not least, my favorite question to ask is, obviously you're a young woman, you've got a long career still ahead of you. At this stage, not only of your career, but of your life, how do you define success?
The biggest thing that I've learned in the last couple of years is just being comfortable and being happy. I think money isn't happiness. Money is the root of all evil, although it you can fund a lot of really cool stuff. I think being happy and being able to do what you love and live your life and have the freedom that you look forward to, I think that's the most important thing.
I
That's
love that.
success to me.
I love it. I love it. And I appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
Taylor, this has been amazing. Hopefully, this is the first of many appearances on the show. I can't let you out of here, though. What do we have coming up? Do we have any races coming up? Do we have anything on the calendar? But what's going
Yeah.
on in the cool world?
Yeah, we are headed to Volusia next week. So we're
Okay.
racing next week. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have Sunday off and then we continue racing the whole next week. So Volusia Speedway Park in Florida. And then after that, we have a 602 crate race here in North Carolina, close to home. So that'll be nice. It's a 4-day race. And I'll have everything updated on my Taylor Kuehl Racing Facebook page as always. We're really
Love it.
excited to get back on the dirt just like we were last week.
And where can people get a hold of you, whether it be social media or, like you said, your website? Where can people get that?
Yeah, Taylor Kuehl Racing is my main form of communication and social media on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And if they're able to reach me, then I'm able to answer.
I love it. Well, you are very prominent on social media, so make sure you guys go shoot her a follow. Is there anywhere to like buy T-shirts, hero cards, anything like that? Do you have anything like that up?
Yeah, my website, taylorkuehl.com, has all of my merchandise.
Awesome, guys. Well, if you're in a position to go out and check Taylor out at the track, definitely go do that. Maybe pick up a T-shirt or a signed hero card. That's always a great way to support. If nothing else, just give her some good vibes on social media. Don't be a weirdo, because that happens, unfortunately.
Yes, thank you.
But Taylor, thank you so much for joining the show. We'll have to have you on a little bit later in the season and kind of see where you're at the midway point towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'd love to update you. Thank you.
We love it. Guys, like I said, make sure to go follow Taylor. We're going to link all her stuff in the description on YouTube and the podcast and all that fun stuff. Give her some love. She deserves it. And most importantly, guys, don't forget to call your mom.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.